What's up, guys, and welcome back to the channel. And UFC 301 Pantoja versus Erceg takes place this weekend, and it's actually a pretty fun card. Look, it's not stacked, there's no real name value, there's no crazy fights, there's no BMF title fight, but you know what we do have? Anthony Smith. So yeah, that's good enough for me. 301's a solid card. I'm going to be going through every single matchup, giving my prediction and breakdown. And yeah, let's get started with the early prelim opener. First fight on the card is Alessandro Costa versus Kevin Borjas. I'm picking Costa to win. I think he is a little bit better. His level of opposition is a lot better, and I think he's just a bit more proven than Kevin Borjas, who his only real quality opponent, if I'm looking at his record really quickly, is Josh Van, and he lost to Josh Van. I mean, he did drop him in the first, but he then just went on to lose a decision. Like, Victor Diaz on the Contender Series was mid. He got submitted by Renzo Mendes as well, who's a 20-7, not too bad opponent on the Peruvian regional scene. But Alessandro Costa, I think, is just a lot better. He went close with Steve Erceg, who is a very good fighter, and a top 10 caliber flyweight. So he went close with him. And apart from that, he's fought Amir Albazi as well. So he's fought that top level of competition. He's had that real high skill level in front of him, and Borjas just hasn't. So I'm backing Costa. He's more explosive, he's more powerful. I think he's a better technical grappler. Striking wise, Borjas might be a little bit more technical, maybe a little bit more clean, but Costa's able to catch you, he's able to hurt you a lot, and I just don't think Borjas is going to put away Costa. I'd be surprised if that happens. So yeah, I'm going to go with Costa. Mixes in leg kicks, mixes in takedowns as well, and I think he can get it done against Borjas, who was getting taken down by Victor Diaz on the Contender Series quite a bit, who looks like an old man and isn't like an actual athletic explosive guy, and he was getting taken down by him quite a lot and had a razor close fight with him where he did win on damage. But let's move on up the card. Vince Pichel versus Ismael Bonfim. This is an easy one. I'm picking Bonfim comfortably. He's way better, he's younger, he's faster, more powerful, and I just don't think Pichel's going to do anything to him. Vince Pichel's record, his last fight was in April 2022, so it's over 2 years off for him. And his last loss was against Mark Madsen, who's awful at fighting. He's beat Austin Hubbard, he's beat Jim Miller, he has beaten Roosevelt Roberts, he's beaten Joaquim Silva, got subbed by Gregor Gillespie. Like, he just hasn't... The Jim Miller win's okay, but you lost to Mark Madsen, that's rough. Bonfim smoked Terrence McKinney, and normally with McKinney, it's like he has a good first round or a good start to the fight and then gets overtaken. Nah, Bonfim just smoked this guy straight out the gate. I know McKinney's not amazing, but I'd say he's better than anyone that Vince Pichel's beaten. And yeah, Bonfim, he lost to BSD. Fucking big deal. BSD was basically... What BSD did to Bonfim is basically what he did to Poirier in round one, except for the submission. Like, that's basically what he did to him. He dominated Poirier on the ground, dominated Bonfim on the ground. Bonfim just wasn't quite as gritty as Poirier to get through the submission. But Pichel, he's 41 years of age. He hasn't fought in 2 years. He's not really beat anyone good, and I think he is going to get chinned in this fight in the first round by KO, and Bonfim is a big favourite, which reflects that most people agree. But let's move on to the next fight. The next fight is Dion Barbosa versus Aneste Kudakante. I don't know what the fuck these names. These are both debuting people coming off the Contender Series, so you know it's an amazing fight, and it really does deserve to be on the main card of this pay-per-view. But I'm picking Barbosa to win. Look, if you look at their records, 6-2 for Barbosa compared to 5-0-1, so a draw for Kudakante. Then you might be like, oh, Barbosa's not as good. But look at the level of opposition. She's coming off a submission win in the first round on the Contender Series against a solid opponent. Not incredible, but let me check what her opponent's record was that she beat on the Contender Series. 5-2, so very mid-level opponent that she beat there. But two other wins. Her loss to Jenna Bishop. You might be like, who the fuck is that? Jenna Bishop. That's a 7-0 fighter on LFA regional scene. So that is a solid opponent. And then she lost to Josiane Nunes. But she's got a win over Karolina Silva, who's now a ranked flyweight. So her losses are not bad, and her wins are actually very good. On the other side, this other bitch, she's 5-0. She does have a draw, but also coming off the Lithuanian... She's fighting out of Lithuania. I don't think that level of opposition is that good. I think if anyone's going to be fighting better opponents, like Barbosa's fighting girls on the Brazilian regional scene, who are really good. But this girl's fighting very mid-level opposition. Her win on the Contender Series, 3-1 opponents. Before that, her draw, she's fought like two of the same people. Like she drew with this chick and then beat her again by split decision over 5 rounds. 4-1 opponent who does have nice tits, but her level of opposition just ain't that good. I'm picking Barbosa to win. I think she'll just grind out a decision. She's like pretty solid grappler. I think she gets it done. Let's move on. Mauricio Ruffy versus Jamie Mullarkey. I'm picking Ruffy to win. He's a Brazilian guy, and he's actually really good. I'm not going to say he's really good. I'm not saying he's some future top 5 guy, but he's 9-1, and his one loss comes to Manuel Souza, who is, I'll tell you what his record is, 11-0. Really good guy on the Brazilian regional scene who's only gone to decision once. 26-year-old guy, arguably should be in the UFC too. That's Ruffy's one loss. But apart from that, he's finished every fight by KO, TKO, has not won by submission, has not won by decision, and his opponents, they're not bad. He beat a Dagestani guy, Magomeliev, on the Contender Series, who's a 10-2 opponent. That's a really good win, and he beat him by finish as well. Look, I'm not going to say all of his opponents are really good, but his one loss is against an undefeated guy who arguably should be in the UFC, and his wins, and especially his win on the Contender Series, really solid. This guy's got power, he's an explosive striker, and he's pretty technical as well. Mullarkey on the other side is just like a waiting to go to BKFC type of guy. 17-7, 5 losses by KO, so his weaknesses play into Ruffy's strengths. And in my opinion, he's lost his last 3 fights. He lost to Haqparast by finish. Terrible look. Haqparast doesn't normally finish people. I think he lost to John McDessie by decision. I gave that fight to McDessie, and I picked Mullarkey, and he was a big favourite going into that fight. Muhammad Naimov, he got finished by... He was winning, but that was... Muhammad Naimov's a featherweight who required like 7 fouls to beat Nathaniel Wood at featherweight. He fought him at lightweight, and he got chinned by Naimov, who was coming in on short notice. He beat Francisco Prado, who's like a 23-year-old, solid fighter with a good chin, but not all that much skill. I think he lost to Michael Johnson too, and then before that he got chinned by Jalen Turner. He's awful. Mullarkey's not good. He's a scrapper. He's a fun guy to watch at times, but he really doesn't have much going for him skill-wise. So Ruffy should finish him in the first. I think it is a setup. They're giving this Brazilian guy his debut fight in front of his home crowd in Brazil, and I think it's a good opponent for him to get a nice finish over, so he should get that done. Let's move on though, up the card. Joaquim Silva versus Drakkar Klose. I'm taking Drakkar Klose. I don't think Silva's that good. His record is atrocious. Struggled with Clay Guida. Like, he was getting pressed by old man Clay Guida. He lost to Arman, fair enough. He had one moment in that fight, so that's the only thing that gets taken away. Jesse Ronson's not good. He lost to Ricky Glenn by TKO. Nah, that's raps for you, bro. I can't be trusting you. He got TKO'd by Nazat Haqparast and Ricky Glenn. That's rough. Jared Gordon's not good. He beat him. This was back in 2018 as well. He lost to Vince Pichel, and then apart from that, he's beat no one good. Like, this guy's not beat anyone good. And then Drakkar Klose, take a look at his record, actually not a bad fighter, and actually had some really good levels of competition, like Joe Selecki, Huffer Garcia, Brendan Jenkins. Not saying any of those are amazing, but I think they're better than any of Silva's wins. Lost to Benny Dariush. That was the fight where he rocked Benil and then came back, and then Benil came back. But Christos Yargos, Bobby Green, Lando Venata, all wins. David Tamer lost, whatever. Beat Mark Jacasey, and then regional MMA from there on. But yeah, I think he's just way better. I think he's the better grappler. I think he's the better striker. I think he's better everywhere. Silva, he just looks like a big explosive guy, but he's not all that good. He really doesn't have that much power. He caught Arman with one good shot, and that kind of made everyone think he was some really good striker, and then he almost lost to Clay Guida. So that's rough. Yeah, Drakkar Klose should get it done. He's not a massive finisher, though, so I'll say by decision, but if he gets a finish, it wouldn't surprise me. Let's move on though. Gene Silva versus William Gomis. I'm taking William Gomis to win. I think he's just more technical, to be honest. He's better striker. Silva's fun. He's got power, but fucking William Gomis is not a guy that just gets chinned. He's a very technical fighter. He stays on the outside. He doesn't he's not a guy to get caught up in a brawl and have a wild fight. His losses come to only good opposition. He lost a submission to Morgan Charrier in 2016, and he lost decision to Saladin Parnas in 2016, who's like elite. And Morgan Charrier is very good as well. And that was in 2016. Since then, how many fights in a row? 6, 9. He's gone on an 11-fight win streak, not beating the craziest levels of opposition, but he gets the occasional finish, and he is just a technical fighter. He sticks behind his weapons. But Gene Silva, like, he's fun, and he beat Weston Wilson, but Weston Wilson's awful. And his fights on the Contender Series are not against bad opposition, but when 13-1, he gave this guy his first loss, but, like, Argentinian guy, I don't know, I just feel like he's probably not fought that many good opponents. He's got a bunch of finishes, but I just don't think it's going to go well for him when he fights like a really technical guy and he has to either find the finish and just go for it, in which case he leaves himself open, or he's got to try and play a range game with Gomis, which I don't think goes well for him. So yeah, just based off what we've seen and how I've seen them fight, I do think Gomis is the better striker. I don't think Silva's the guy to take it to the ground, to be honest. I think he's just going to be trying to have a fun scrap on the feet. So yeah, whatever. I think Gomis is going to win. I wouldn't mind it if Silva wins, though. He's a fun guy, but I think Gomis gets it done by decision. Let's move on, though, to the next fight. Mytabek Oralbai versus Elvis Brenner. This one is probably one of the better fights on the card, in my opinion, and I don't know why it's so low down. I would have put this on the main card, but I'm picking Oralbai to win. I think he is the better grappler, and I think he's just stronger. He's too big and strong for Brenner, in my opinion. Elvis Brenner's a guy that I think, even though I like him, he's one of my favourite unranked fighters. Like, he's one of my favourite prospects, I guess. I like him. He's got that fun shooter box style. But he definitely, he arguably lost to Zabraya Tukagov. I think that fight was kind of a robbery. And then he was getting smoked by Garam. I mean, actually, no, I take that back. Garam is a striker, so I'm not going to say this is a comparable fight to Oralbai. But he was actually doing well in the first with Garam, and then he got dropped. And then in the second round, Garam just got on top of him, beat him up a bunch. And then he kind of gassed out in the third. But Garam, I call him the technique masher, because this guy just throws a whole lot of technique with like nothing. Like, I swear this guy doesn't have a game plan. He just throws technique, and just button mashes, and if he wins, he wins, and if he loses, he loses. And he just gasses out because he throws really quick shots. But Oralbai is a different style to Garam. Even though you might think they're from a similar area, you might be like, oh, they both sound like wrestlers. Nah. Garam is a striker for the most part. Oralbai is a heavy grappler. He smoked Uroš Medic in the wrestling. Medic is a big dude as well at welterweight. Oralbai took that fight on short notice, and he was ragdolling Medic and subbed him in the second round. Medic is a guy that just doesn't really lose to that many guys. He lost to Jalen Turner on the feet, and he lost to Oralbai on the ground. Like, that's where his sort of comparisons at in terms of his striking and his grappling. So that win is very good from Oralbai on short notice, and his only loss in his career, Mytabek Oralbai, is against an 11-0 guy on the regional scene, Khalid Satuev, who's 29 years old and undefeated. That's his only loss. He did have a draw, but that's his only loss. But apart from that, his wins against kind of weird opposition, but it's not about the level of opposition always. It's about now, at least this is not like a debuting guy that's beating cans on the scene. Like, this guy's proven in the UFC. He smoked Uroš Medic. Elvis Brenner, yeah, I don't think he beat Zabraya. The Garam win was sick, but that was like, Garam gassed hard, and Garam's also not the same wrestler as Oralbai. He's not as big, he's not as strong, doesn't impose himself as much. So yeah, I think Brenner, he does have some power, he's a clean striker, but Oralbai's going to wrestle the fuck out of him. I think it's a similar style, Arman and Charles, Islam and Charles. It's these Dagestanis or these heavy wrestlers versus these BJJ shootbox guys. They get stuck on their back and their submissions aren't enough, and they just get held down a bunch, and these guys are way too strong for them. So I think it's a very similar style here. I think Oralbai is going to take him down a bunch. Maybe if he wears him out enough, he could find a finish, but I think it is more likely to go decision. But let's move on to the next fight. Karolina Kowalkiewicz versus Yasmin Lucindo. I'm taking Lucindo to win. Kowalkiewicz is a fucking grandma. Lucindo's not bad. She's got some good wins. Yeah, I'm picking her to win. I don't care about this fight. Let's move on. Joanderson Brito versus Jack Shaw. I'm picking Joanderson Brito to win this fight because, in my opinion, he's actually extremely good. And I think he's really underrated by a lot of people. And I think he should arguably be ranked, or at least be fighting a ranked opponent. I want to just tell you guys his record really quickly. I'm going to look at it to make sure I don't get anything wrong in terms of the order. But Joanderson Brito, 16-3, really good record in my opinion. He's got a loss by KO, a loss by submission, loss by decision. So he's not an unbeatable guy. He did get outpointed by Bill Aljo, but his recent 4 wins: Jonathan Pierce, really good win; Weston Wilson's a can; Lucas Alexander, very solid win; and he finished Andre Feely in the first round. Again, really good win. This guy beat Diego Lopez. He chinned Chepe Mariscal, who's actually come on to be a really good fighter. And he's lost to Bill Aljo, and then before that he just lost to some guys like 10 years ago on the regional scene. So I think he's very good, and I think he's dangerous in all areas, shown by his multiple wins. He's got submissions, he's got finishes. Jack Shaw, you might look at his record, 17-1. No way he's losing. But look at his wins. Mark Wanamiakani's awful. Ricky Simone is his loss. That is not too bad, but he lost at bantamweight to Ricky Simone. Timo Valiev's an old man. And then he's like these other guys, Hunter Azua, Aaron Phillips, like these are not elite competition. He's beating guys on Cage Warriors and all that kind of stuff. Just not that good in my opinion. He's not dangerous at all, to be honest. That's my opinion. Like, against a guy like Brito, Brito's not just getting subbed by everyone. Like, Brito's not a guy showing grappling weaknesses. Shaw's a guy who's also not super strong in comparison. I think Brito's going to be way stronger. He's pretty jacked. He's a short, stocky guy. And he was able to stuff some of Pierce's takedowns. But Pierce, in my opinion, is just like the featherweight Jack Shaw. Shaw's got a couple more submissions, but Pierce, I think, is a better wrestler than Jack Shaw, and I think he's stronger, and he's going to be a harder guy to stop takedowns from. So I think Shaw, he's not taking him down, and on the feet, he's just not super athletic. He's not a crazy good striker. So yeah, I think Brito should handle him in front of his home crowd and get a big win by TKO. But let's move on to the next fight. Paul Craig versus Caio Borralho. I'm taking Borralho. The odds, just look at them. They can pretty much tell you the story of this fight. Paul Craig should not win this. He could catch him with a submission, but it's kind of become the age-old tale of Paul Craig. You got to watch out for that triangle, but then he rarely gets it. He gets it occasionally. It's like he gets the triangle every couple fights, and that just stops people from completely writing him off. Because like, he beats, like, Ankalaev, he takes a bit of off, he got some wins in between, but then he gets that win over Jamal Hill, and everyone's like, oh, geez, you can't go into the guard of Paul Craig. And then he has some losses, and he looks mid, and then, you know, he beats Krylov by submission, loses to other guys, like, I don't know. That's the thing with Paul Craig. I just don't think he's consistent enough to be able to win this. He beat, what's his name, Andre Muniz, who's not that good, and that's a fight where those are two grapplers. He's going to be able to have some success on the ground. But when he fought someone who's actually a good grappler and can mix it up in Brendan Allen, he got smoked and submitted and looked shit and really had no moments in that fight. So I think it's going to be similar with Borralho. Borralho's not like an elite grappler, but he's very good. He's shown good striking too. I think he's way better than Paul Craig on the feet. And I just don't think Paul Craig wants to be in there that much anymore. I think he's doing it for the paycheck. He's not a top guy at all. Borralho's on the way up. He's got confidence. Paul Craig, he's kind of, he almost knows himself. If I don't get it to the ground and get some submission, I just don't win fights other than that. So I think he's going to get cooked up by Borralho, and I think he might get TKO'd in the first round on the feet, because he was getting cracked by Allen, who's not that good of a striker, and he was getting rocked by Allen. So Borralho, I think he's going to catch him off guard with something, drop him on the feet, follow him to the ground, and Paul Craig's going to be like, what do you mean? Why isn't this guy just not following into my dangerous guard? And he's just going to get finished. So yeah, that's what I think's going to happen. But let's move on up the card. Michel Pereira versus Ihor Potieria. I'm picking Pereira, obviously. He's going to smoke Ihor. Ihor's coming in on short notice to replace Mahmoud Muradov, and Pereira, he's just not all that good. He beat Shogun, and he beat some guy coming in off the Contender Series, and that's about it. He lost to Wahlberg, he lost to Bellato. He just loses fights, and he loses more than he wins, to be honest, in the UFC. And Michel Pereira's not a guy that is like, he's not losing. He's not losing consistently, and he hasn't lost in fucking ages. So I'm pretty sure this guy's on like an 8-fight win streak since the weird DQ, I think it was, to who I forget who it was. I think, was it Sanchez? I don't know. But Since then, he's looked at a welterweight. I get it; he didn't look amazing, but at middleweight, this guy looked sick. He smoked Petrosky in like a minute, and he smoked what's his name, Mikhail Oleksiejczuk in a minute as well. This guy's rinsing everyone at middleweight. He's just way quicker. He's way more powerful. And Ihor Potieria is coming down from light heavyweight. I know the first time he did it, he did do it on short notice, and he won, but he missed weight. I think he won't miss weight here because he's had a bit of time. But I don't know. I just think light heavyweights are not good at all. And Pereira's going to smoke him. He's more dynamic on the feet. He's more powerful. I think he's even almost going to be bigger than Ihor, considering, which is crazy to say considering like a year ago they fought 35 pounds apart. So I think he's almost going to be bigger than Ihor. He's stronger. He's more powerful. Better grappler. Better striker. All of the above. Ihor really doesn't have a chance to win this, in my opinion. Let's move on, though, to the next fight. Anthony Smith, on paper, should win this fight, but he's not on paper, so he's going to lose. Vitor Petrino is going to win this fight by TKO. I think he's just more dangerous than Anthony Smith, and he just doesn't have a lot to be worried about. Like, at this point in Anthony Smith's career, what is there to be worried about? Unless his on-paper version appears for the first time ever, and we see Bogdan Gushkov in the cage, I'm not picking Anthony Smith to win against Vitor Petrino. Smith, he's looking awful. He's getting chinned by Khalil Roundtree. He's getting chinned all over the place. He's looking shit against Ryan Spann, who just got smoked by Gushkov, obviously the on-paper Anthony Smith. He didn't get chinned by Spann. He got dropped and hurt badly. And he's just not smoking Ryan Spann. He looked worse in the rematch than he did in the first fight. Pretty clearly he's declining. He's soft-bodied. He's losing any testosterone that he has. He's delusional. He's got the wrong approach to fighting. He thinks that he's just going to beat people just because he thinks his skills are just that good. And yeah, I think he's looking at this fight, probably thinking Vitor Petrino. It's weird to say, because normally it's the big favourite that's overlooking the other guy, and you're like, oh, everyone thinks I'm going to smoke this guy, and then you lose. But it's weird. It seems like Anthony Smith is the actual guy that's overlooking his opponent. He seems to just be, I feel like he's just thinking, this guy's a big jacked guy, he's just a big brute, he's got nothing else going. He hasn't fought the same level of opposition as me. This guy didn't get 50-43'd by John Jones. He hasn't been in those waters that I have, and he just assumes he's going to win. But no, Vitor, he's going to smoke him. I don't think Vitor is like a future champion, but he's a very promising guy. He's big, he's powerful, he's got grappling too, so I don't think Smith's just going to take him down. If Smith shoots, I think Vitor's strong enough to just shuck him off. And yeah, on the feet, I just don't think Smith's having success. He's not fast twitch. Vitor, he chinned Modestas Bukauskas. He subbed, what's his name? Fucking Polish dude. He subbed him on the ground. And then just in his last fight, he took down Tyson Pedro and actually pushed a pace in the third round, which is impressive considering this guy's a power puncher, big jacked guy. You wouldn't expect him to be pushing a pace, but he grappled late against Pedro, pushed a pace, and took him down a bunch. So I think all round, Smith just got not much for him. I guess he could try and wear him out. He could try and use the veteran craftiness. We know Lucas Tracy loves the veteran craftiness, but I think Vitor's going to get it done by KO. Let's move on, though, to the next fight. Jose Aldo versus Jonathan Martinez. I'm picking Jose Aldo by round 2 TKO. I think he's going to expose Jonathan Martinez for being a one-dimensional fighter, because I think Jonathan Martinez, although he got all this talk and he gets all this talk about being the dark horse of the division, you don't know about Jonathan Martinez. He's a real problem, and he is. He's a very good fighter, but he's a one-dimensional guy, and if you take away, I know I sound like Anthony Smith here, but if you take away his leg kicks, on paper, he's not got really anything else going for him. Against Said Nurmagomedov, and this is another thing, people are just acting like, man, you can't even get kicked by this guy once. Like, they're acting like his leg kick is like the level of Pereira's left hook. Like, man, you take one of those kicks and you're cooked, you're done. Like, come on, why are we acting like TKO a weight-drained Cub Swanson who cut down to bantamweight and looked awful? He TKO'd him in the second with the leg kicks, and then Yanez. Yanez looked shit in that fight. He's looked shit before. He lost to David Grant, in my opinion, when they fought. And I picked Rob Font to beat him because I was like, this guy's getting tagged up and jabbed up by a lot of guys who just aren't that good, and he hasn't really beat anyone good, because I don't think he really beat Davey Grant. I'm like, this guy's not finished, because people are saying he's going to drop and finish Rob Font. And I'm like, who's he finished that's actually good? So yeah, Martinez beat him. That's sick. But Yanez is a guy, he's got his foot turned inwards. Really hard to check the low kicks. Flat-footed guy, real boxing style. And Martinez tuned him up. So fair play. But Aldo, man, the guy doesn't get leg kicked clean. And I was worried because I knew he was a good checker of leg kicks. But I was like, man, I got to go back. Let me check the stats for some of these fights. See just how good. And then I shat myself because I was like, well, not literally, but I was like, what the fuck? Because I'm like, bro, Pedro Munoz landed like 50 leg kicks on him. He's cooked. Martinez is going to TKO him with leg kicks. And then I realized, because I'm retarded, and I forgot that they count checked kicks as kicks. So if you kick me and I check it, they count it as a kick for you. So, yeah, he checked every single fucking... Then I went back and rewatched it. I'm like, that can't be right. There's no way. And then I went back and rewatched it. And, yeah, he checked literally every kick. I swear to God, none of those kicks from Munoz went unchecked. He checked all of them and beat the fuck out of Munoz on the feet. And his boxing looked crisp as. And Munoz ain't bad. Like, let's not forget... Munoz, I know, he lost to Kyler Phillips. He's lost some fights. But he beat Chris Gutierrez. That's another heavy leg kicker. That's a heavy leg kicker. Chris Gutierrez, he smoked him on the feet and just exposed his boxing. And that's what I think is going to happen here. Guy with good leg kick defense, checks leg kicks a lot, and just sick boxing. Martinez's hands are not that good in my opinion. I think he lost to Said Nurmagomedov. Personally, I have no idea how that was a unanimous decision. If it was split, I would have been like, one judge got it wrong, or two judges got it wrong. But no, all three scored it unanimous for Jonathan Martinez, and I just didn't see it. Watching that live and watching it back afterwards, I'm like, I swear he won 2 rounds here. But whatever. But yeah, Yanez win, Saeed win, close fight, Swanson win, Vince Morales not that good, Perez mid, these other guys not that good. He got chinned by Davy Grant. I know that was a while ago, but that's not ages ago. Like, that was March 2021. That's about 3 years ago-ish. Like, that's not like it's just yonks to go back on the regional scene. Like, his most recent loss, Davy Grant, solid fighter, but not the level of Jose Aldo. Thomas Almeida decision. Frankie Saenz TKO. Andre Eel split loss. I'm reaching back here, but yeah, I just don't think the level... Okay, this is the worry, because Jose Aldo might show up and he doesn't really care, and he's just trying to fight out his contract, and he's just getting this one done. He's like, I'll just show up in Rio, I'll have a fight. I don't think that's Aldo, man. I don't think a guy that was the featherweight champion of the world and a top 15, top 10 fighter for years in bantamweight and featherweight, I don't think that's the guy to be like, I'm going to just show up for a paycheck. Like, he wants to he's putting on a show, he wants to get a win, he wants to make a statement, and even if he's going to leave after this, I don't think he's just showing up half-assed, just to being like, oh yeah, I'm going to just let myself lose, I don't care about this fight, I'm going to lose in front of my fans, and then I'll just go, whatever. That does not seem like Jose Aldo to me. I think he's just going to show up as good as we saw him last at bantamweight, and against, like, Jose Aldo's losses, man. Come on, what are we doing here? Let's not act like this guy's losing to scrubs, or anyone that's like, oh, Martinez, I reckon he beats them. Like, let's just think about this. Merab just grappled him, and he did better against Merab than, like, anyone else, really. Rob Font smoked him over 5. Pedro Munoz smoked him over 3 rounds, checked all his kicks. Vera made him look stupid, had no moments. He lost to Jan. He lost to Marlon Moraes. I think he won that fight. And he lost to Volk. So at bantamweight, he's lost to Jan and he lost to Merab. Those are his 2 real losses. Because I don't think he lost to Marlon Moraes. And we don't need to go back to the 2010s to look at his featherweight losses. His only one fight at bantamweight was in 2019 against Moraes. In 2020 onwards, he's won 3, lost 2. He's lost to Jan and Merab. And he's beat Munoz, Font, and Vera. I think all 3 of those, maybe not Munoz, but maybe Munoz. I think Martinez is like a very similar style to Munoz. Munoz, I think, has better boxing, but Martinez just has a bit more dangerous, like, kicks. But overall, I think Aldo's way more skilled. Martinez ain't going to grapple him, and even if he does, Aldo's takedown defense, rock solid. And yeah, I think the only thing Martinez could do to it, I don't think he's finishing him on the feet with, like, punches. That's not going to happen. He ain't Connor or Holloway. Like, what are we doing here? And yeah, I think you go back and rewatch his fights, his hands really don't... I swear he doesn't throw punches. Like, he does, but, like, his boxing is just not that good. He's not a guy that you look at and be like, man, that's some crispy striking, that's some really good boxing. He just swings leg kicks, and he must just have really hard shins, because he's not really kicking different to anyone else. He just throws kicks, and he must just have really hard shins. So fair play. But Aldo's checking that shit all day, and when he checks, he's gonna line you up with punches to the fucking dome as you go for your leg kicks. Aldo's got the Thai stance, he stands upright, he can switch stances too. I don't think he's getting leg kicked, and I think that's really the only method that Martinez has to victory. My one worry, of course, is both Aldo's age, maybe he just shows up washed, but also that Lucas Tracy was picking Martinez and then changed, and then he changed to Aldo. So that is a concern, but apart from that, if all things show up status quo and we don't see any major declines in performance, you're giving me the Aldo that fought Rob Font or Munoz versus the Martinez that any Martinez, really, I just don't think he beats him. So I'm picking Aldo by TKO. I think he's going to go... Martinez is going to go for a leg kick, and Aldo's going to land a shot. Or Martinez's elbows. He's got a real kind of skinny frame, built like Brandon Royval. I think he might land under the guard, rip him with a body shot, finish him off, because Martinez doesn't seem like the guy who would take body shots too well just by looking at his physique. But let's move on to the main event. Steve Erceg versus Alessandro Pantoja. I'm picking Pantoja, man. Look, I get why people are picking Erceg. I understand, he looks technical, he's a solid fighter, very good. Not saying he's a bad fighter at all. And everyone's I get it. People have the vibe. It's always the vibe. And look, the vibe's probably going to fucking end up being right. And everyone's going to call me a casual for not knowing that Steve Erceg was going to beat fucking Pantoja. Everyone's going to call me a casual because I am picking Pantoja. Look, maybe I'm being dumb here and maybe I'm being too look at the records. But come on. Matt Schnell KO, we don't care. I'm here to tell you right now, we don't care. Alessandro Costa decision, had moments of him getting hurt in that fight. Costa's not a top 15 guy right now. Dvorak decision. Let's not act like Dvorak was kind of cruising. I know it's short notice, but Dvorak was kind of cruising at moments in that fight, and then he's got cracked. And then apart from that, let's take a look at this. All right, Hiroshi Hirai. This was in 2023 in February, so this isn't even reaching back. We got a 4-4 opponent. Guys, breaking news, we got a 4-4 opponent. That's his last submission. Obviously he KO'd Matt Schnell, but before Matt Schnell, that was his last finish. Then, before that, we got Paul Loga. Alert, 9-8 opponent, elite stuff. I like Erceg, man, and again, I'm going to eat my words here because I'm being too look at the records. But then Cody Haddon, he took to a decision. So those other two guys he finished. Cody Haddon's good, 6-1, not bad. But Eternal, it's a good promotion. I like Eternal. It's a great show, great promotion. Does have some very good fighters, but they also have some absolute cans on there. I've got a personal story of seeing a guy from one of my mates' gyms fight on Eternal. I'm not going to go into detail, but he's awful. And Eternal does kind of have just some absolute shittos. But yeah, the Cody Haddon guy took to a decision. Even Shannon Ross, alert, elite stuff. He got another win over Paul. So he KO'd Paul Loga in the first round, who's an awful fighter. And then he fought him again 3 fights later. So that's brilliant stuff. Tim Moore, another submission victory. I think everyone thinks 12-8, not bad. He's got a positive record. Solid. But yeah, Sung Guk Choi, what are we doing here? He's not... And then he's lost to Sean Gucci or Gauchi. Gucci sounds like a weird name. 8-1. So a good opponent there, and that was his loss. And that was a while ago. So fair play. He's been on a good win streak, very good win streak. But Matt Schnell having a back and forth scrap. I know him and Pantoja had a pretty back and forth scrap too, but Schnell is a guy that KOing Matt Schnell does not mean you have KO power or one shot dropping power, stopping power, anything like that. Alessandro Costa, solid win. And if Costa goes out there and smokes Borjas, then I'll be okay, that's a good win. But if Costa goes out there and loses to Borjas, anyone who's picking Erceg you got to be honest, you're going to be thinking, hang on a minute, what am I doing here? I'm basing my prediction off a KO over Matt Schnell and a decision over Alessandro Costa, who's unranked and whose best win in the UFC is Jimmy Flick. But yeah, and then David Dvorak, who's just a mid-level guy. Let me look at Dvorak's record. Dvorak's just losing a whole lot. Steve Erceg, Manel Cap, Mateusz Nicolau, who's not that good. We found that out. And then before that, he lost on the regional promotion. But he's on a 3-fight loss streak. And he lost to Erceg on short notice. So fair play. That's not too bad. And Erceg beat him on short notice. So fair play. Good stuff. But I think he had a fight coming up at that time in Eternal. So it's not like he was like coming off the couch out of shape. I just don't think Erceg is strong enough and physical enough to compete in the grappling. To be honest, that's my opinion. I don't think he's strong enough to compete in the grappling because I think Pantoja, you see him fight guys like Royval and Moreno, and he's kind of able to just be more physical. Like, you kind of see it in all of his fights. He's just bigger. He's the more physical guy. He's never been finished too. I don't think Erceg's finishing him. That would be surprising. Like, are we going to act like this guy just doesn't get dropped? He gets like uppercutted from hell by Figgy and just doesn't get put away. And we're going to act like Erceg's KO on him. I don't think he is. Royval decision, 5 rounds, great win. Moreno, dominant. Not like the most exciting, but that's a very effective game plan, and I could see him doing a similar thing here to Erceg. Moreno, decision. I don't know why it was a split. I thought he clearly won. He just bum-rushed Perez and finished him, who's not even a bad fighter. Before that, he subbed Royval, beat Manel Cap by decision. Lost to Askarov. Beat Schnell in the first round by TKO, lost to Figgy. And yeah, like, come on. He's not lost to anyone really bad recently. And the style that has beat him, like Askarov kind of out-grappled him a little bit, and Figgy was just too much of a hoss on the feet. Like, he was just too big, too powerful, too quick on the feet for him. I don't think that's Erceg. Erceg is pretty quick, he's a speedy guy, but he's a very tapping guy, he's a ranged guy. And yeah, dropping Dvorak, got a head kick around there. Good stuff. He mixes it up well, so maybe I could see Pantoja with the hands down, bit reckless, gets caught, put away. I doubt it. I've got to go off what we've seen, and what we've seen is Pantoja never being finished, showing a granite chin every time we step out, we see him out there, and I just don't think that's going to disappear here. And look, this is a dumb thing, because I was doing a similar thing with Ilia Topuria against Volk, but there's a difference. Like, Ilia Topuria, I was saying he hasn't fought the level of opposition as Volk has. He hasn't been in that 5-round back-and-forth technical fight. He was just on the good side of a beating against Emmett. He was just piecing him up. And I was saying, he got tagged up by Bryce Mitchell a bit. I was being a bit too intricate there. But there's a difference between wins over Josh Emmett and Bryce Mitchell, who are 2 top 15 guys, compared to KOing Matt Schnell and then Alessandro Costa and Dvorak. Like, Dvorak is a bottom-level ranked flyweight. He still is ranked despite being on a 3-fight losing streak and not winning in ages. Again, this sounds like I'm trying to shit on Erceg. I'm not. I'm just justifying my prediction. I think Pantoja's too strong in the grappling. He scores takedowns against fucking everyone. I want to look at his UFC record. Alessandro. Sorry, this is taking a bit. But I want to look at this guy's UFC record because he takes down everyone, and just like, Erceg's a guy, he's got some scrambles, he's got some good jiu-jitsu, he's a bit crafty, but his submissions are coming against cans. In the grappling against Costa, he really didn't do a whole lot. And yeah, look at this. 8 takedowns against Royval, 6 against Moreno, took down Perez once and then just choked him out. 3 against him in the first fight. He attempts submissions too. This is not a boring wet blanket grappler. He gets takedowns on guys. Manel Cap actually took him down, which is surprising. He didn't wrestle against Cap, and he outstruck Cap on the feet. People rate Cap very highly, so I think his striking is underrated, given that he kind of just looks like a big brute, a big brawler that just kind of swings and he gets tired immediately. But I think his style of, like, when he looks really tired, he's not a guy, you can't say he's got awful cardio, because awful cardio is like you fall off a cliff and then you lose after the first or second round. He's not doing that. I saw, like, Bedtime MMA made a video criticizing every champion today. It was a solid video. I agreed with a lot of the takes he had, but he was saying Pantoja's a wet blanket boring fighter and saying he's, like, arguably more boring than Dagestani's. Why are we acting like the Royval fight wasn't that bad? Like, I'm not here to say it was a barn burner, but it wasn't that bad. And he took him down easily, and Royval just couldn't get up. Like, that effective grappling, Royval couldn't get up, and he was transitioning positions. His scrambles are really good. He doesn't just sit in half guard the whole time. Lucas Tracy says it a lot. I disagree with that notion. And then against Moreno, he does what, like, this is And against Moreno, a lot of back control, fair enough. But that is a fight where he had to push so hard and he had to exert so much energy to really impose himself in the grappling. And so, yeah, you're not going to be rolling around like a maniac and giving up positions. Because guess what? If the other guy he throws a bit of ground and pound, and if the other guy tries to get out, he will stick with them and he'll scramble and he'll take it back. He takes openings when they're given. So he's not just a pure wet blanket guy. And why are we acting like before the Royval fight, any of his fights were boring? Like, why are we acting like that? Moreno was a sick fight, back and forth. He dropped Moreno in the stand-up, so let's not act like he was only having success on the ground. Perez just bum-rushed him immediately. This guy's sick. The Royval fight, first round as the champion, this guy's still going out there, rushing across the octagon, swinging. Like, it's a sick fighter to watch. Like, Cap wasn't like a barn burner, but it was a fun fight. The first Royval fight was fun as shit. Schnell fight was fun. The Figgy fight was fun. Like, this guy's a fun fighter. So everyone's saying he's boring. I don't know. I disagree with that. But back to the actual prediction. I think he's I think he's too strong, too physical, too solid for Erceg. He's going to take him down, in my opinion. Erceg's going to be like, I don't know how do I get up from this takedown? Look, I like Erceg. He's a funny guy. He seems like a chill dude. But I don't know. I just think he's not fought this level of opposition. And it's not like Ilya, where he's just smoking pretty much everyone. He's not smoking everyone. He's gone to a decision with Costa and having to pretty much just clinch it up against the cage to win the third round because he was getting cracked up in the second. Like, I think, look, I'm picking Pantoja by decision, but I would not be surprised if he drops Erceg, who is not just this impenetrable defense guy. This is not Adesanya we're talking about, who's not, that's kind of bad comparison, but like, there's not some, like, O'Malley fucking sniper of a fighter, like, that's just smoking everyone on the feet. Like, look, I get the argument. Erceg's a technical guy, he's got good grappling, but I don't even think that Pantoja needs to just only wrestle to win. Where's this notion came from that Erceg's just like a better striker than Royval and then Moreno? Like, why is that a thing? I don't know. Apparently KOing Matt Schnell and dropping Dvorak with a good shot in the first round or second, whenever he dropped him, and then rocking Costa a couple times and also getting rocked by Costa. Where's that just transferred over to he's better than Moreno, he's better than Royval, Pantoja cannot stand with him, he needs to grapple, and he's not going to be able to grapple. Like, I think he's going to mix it up. He's extremely well-rounded, one of the more well-rounded champions, in my opinion. A guy that will have success in multiple facets of the game in his fights. And yeah, I don't know. I just don't think Erceg is at that level just yet. I think if you make this fight happen in 2 years' time and Pantoja's 36, I'm definitely considering it. And Pantoja's chin is more worn, but he's taken time off since his last fight. It's been 5 months. Erceg's making a 2-month turnaround. That's solid, but he was getting cracked a little bit by Schnell, so I don't know, maybe the chin's not always there. But yeah, any like chin damage or anything that Pantoja took against Royval, he'll be refreshed, he'll have time. He knew he was going to fight on this date the whole time. It was an undoubtable thing. He knew he was preparing, he's in shape. Both of them are going to be in shape, but like Erceg, got the KO, went back home, probably celebrated a little bit, and then immediately got the call and said, you want to fight in Brazil, and then has to go back out there. Brazilian crowd maybe gets to Erceg, I'm not sure. Just the intangibles are what I'm going with here. But overall, in terms of the tangible things, the things we've seen in the octagon, I think Pantoja's better. And in my opinion, a lot of the guys that are picking Erceg, they're using intangibles. They're saying, I don't know, I think Pantoja's not going to show up too well. I think he's going to feel the pressure of needing to get a win for Brazil, or I think that his chin's not going to be good anymore, or something like that, or he's going to just decline after one fight. Like, he's got one defense as a champion. Let's not act like this is some long-reigning. This ain't Volk, 35, long-reigning champion, fighting an up-and-comer, dangerous guy who's KOing everyone and coming off a KO loss. Like, bro, if Pantoja went up and fought O'Malley and he got chinned in the first round like Volk did against Islam, CGI, but like, maybe if that happened, I don't think it did. But if that happened and he goes back down 3 months later, fights Erceg, pretty solid striker, I'll be like, all right, I'm worried. But I don't know. I just don't think I can pick a guy whose best win is Schnell by KO, who's not good. And I don't rate Dvorak that highly. And I think people are talking too much into I just look at them and it looks like their technique's better. It's the same thing with Lucas Tracy saying that Roman Kopylov would beat everyone at middleweight on the feet. Like, it's the same thing. Yes, they look really technical, and it's really easy to look really technical against guys with shit defense and who are not that good. Like, come on. Like, let's not act like Erceg doesn't get cracked in his fights. He's not a guy that you can't hit him. You can't hit him. His defense is too good. So yeah, I get it. He does look pretty technical, and Pantoja does look pretty wild and a bit open. But again, this ain't O'Malley. He's not step back countering him, I don't think. Like, I don't know. I'm picking fucking Pantoja. I've gone on with this long enough. I'm probably going to eat my words. And look, I'm not going to be unhappy if Erceg wins. I'm going to get my pick wrong, and I'm going to have to listen to MMA Guru talk about it. Oh, I called it, guys. I called it. Even though like 20 other people I'm hearing are picking Erceg. But whatever. Yeah, those are my predictions on screen, guys. I think it's going to be a really fun card. Not the biggest name value. I'm not paying for this fucking pay-per-view, but I think it'll be a fun card. I don't know why Brenner vs. Oralbai is on the prelims behind Kovalkiewicz, but whatever. It should be fun. All these, but like the last Brazilian pay-per-view, 283 was fun as shit. Like, our card was awesome. No stakes, really. I mean, a couple title fights, but not similar situation. Paul Craig was on the card against a Brazilian. Anthony Smith wasn't on the card. I don't know why I mentioned him. But like, you know what I mean. Like, Paul Craig was on there against a Brazilian. There's just they're looking to feed these guys easier opponents. A lot of big Brazilian favorites on the card, and these cards always end up being fun because Brazilians, they're always fun. Brazil cards are way more fun than fucking Abu Dhabi cards, always. So yeah, that's the video, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed. Long one here. Pause, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.